Today we're going to learn how to paper mache. I bet a lot of you have been wondering what paper mache is if you've never done it before. Paper mache is basically a type of way to make sculpture that covers the sculpture with a layer of paper that becomes a hard surface to paint. You can hear how hard that surface is. So we're going to cover our armature with paper mache so that it gives us a nice smooth surface to paint on later. Now, paper mache has been around for a really long time. It's actually over 2,000 years old. It originated in China around 200 BC. It was originally used to make helmets and decorate weapons for the Chinese army, but several hundred, maybe even 1,000 years later, Europe started using paper mache to make different decorative items like boxes, sculptures, and different artsy stuff like that. So how you do paper mache, there's actually lots of different ways to make the glue that glues the paper to your sculpture, but we're going to do kind of an old-fashioned way, which is just water and flour mixture. This is just regular white flour, like what you use to bake bread. So this is going to work as our glue for our paper. So what you do is you just need equal parts water and flour. So I have 2 equal-sized containers. We're going to put them together in a bowl and combine them so that there are no lumps. So we're going to mix it up. Now I will have already done this step for you, so you won't need to actually mix it, but I thought some of you might be curious about how I did it, so I wanted to mix it for you on the video. Also, if you have parents that don't mind really giant messes, then you might be able to do some paper mache at home. You now know the recipe. Really trying to mix up all of those lumps so that it's nice and smooth. There we go. It's kind of a thick paste that we're going to be using today. Now the paper that's going to go into this paste is actually going to be some white paper towel pieces. So I've already started tearing some white paper towel. You want your pieces to be fairly small today. I don't make them usually larger than like the palm of my hand. That's kind of a good way to measure. And sometimes you're going to need pieces that are even smaller, depending on if you're doing a tricky area of your armature or not. So I made myself a little collection right there. And I'm also going to go ahead and use some paper towel to cover my work area since we have it out. Now this is my bird armature that I've been working on. It's nice and sturdy, so it's going to be easy for me to paper mache today. And I'm just going to stand it up so that you can watch me paper mache the top part. So what you'll do, let me rearrange this a little bit, is you'll just take one piece of paper at a time, and this is the fun, messy part. You're going to dip it into the paper mache paste, and then I use 2 fingers to wipe off the excess. I'll kind of smear it all over both sides of the paper towel without getting it too drippy. If you get it too drippy, you're going to have a big mess. Then once you have your piece all full of the paste, you're just going to start laying it over your armature and smoothing the paper towel in place. You'll take another piece, dip it again, wipe off the excess. Try not to crinkle it. We want these pieces to stay nice and flat. It's also a little bit tricky when you're wiping off the extra that you don't tear it. The paper towel is kind of a little bit thin, so you have to be really gentle when you use your fingers to wipe it down. Smooth it out. The magic word today is smooth. You want your pieces to try to be as smooth as possible, hopefully without too many wrinkles. Even if it has a wrinkle, you definitely want to try to get those wrinkles pressed down flat to the surface. You can see I'm taking a lot of time smoothing mine out. We're going to do the side. Smoothing it out the best we can. It's okay to overlap your pieces as you're working. Usually paper mache projects have at least 2 or 3 layers of paper mache. And as you can see, it is a very messy activity, so be careful that you don't get your messy fingers on your clothes or on any other art supplies today. If you need to wipe off your fingers, you will have a towel at your table. I'm going to try to cover the tail and all other parts of the newspaper. Now my bird is complete with its first layer of paper mache. You probably noticed during the time-lapse video how much time I spent smoothing the paper out to make sure that it was stuck fast to the armature and so that it didn't have too many wrinkles. It's also okay if you get any paper mache on the wire or a wood base if you have that, because when it's dry we can wipe it off of those areas. You also might notice as you paper mache that some areas are going to sink down with the weight of that gooey paper mache. That's okay. My tail isn't as high as it was. I just have to be okay with that because the wet paper mache is heavy. It is going to change some things if it's a part of your armature that wasn't that strong. So that's something that I'm going to have to live with. But other than that, I'm checking all my areas to make sure that I didn't miss anything with my first layer. And now my paper mache sculpture can dry overnight. All right, so we're back. It's the next day. My paper mache has dried. You can hear how hard it is now. Okay, so not wet and squishy anymore, but it is a nice hard surface. I still see a lot of wrinkles on my sculpture. So what I'm going to do on the second day is attempt to smooth those out even more with a new fresh layer of paper mache. Okay, here we are after the second layer of paper mache has dried. Wow, that second layer makes a big difference with smoothing out wrinkles. I also found as I was doing the second layer that smaller pieces are easier to put on smooth. So if you have a wrinkle, get a small piece of towel and paper mache that over the wrinkle to cover it. Your goal, again, is to have as smooth a surface as possible so that you'll be ready to paint your smooth surface next time.